Welcome to this April edition of the Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. My name is Brian Fisher, and along with a guest, I'll be doing a brief review of the recent games, looking ahead to the next few games, and most importantly, discussing current topics. On to my guest. Matthew has become a regular contributor on the Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast, for which I am really grateful, and I'm always delighted to have him appearing. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you for having me back.
Without further ado, let's go over to the last four games. We've got to do this, I'm afraid. Wigan against QPR was the first one at the beginning of April, and we lost that 1-0. We then went on to Preston North End and lost there 2-0. And then, surprisingly, we had the Baggies at home and we drew 2-2. And then to compound it, we then stopped that revival with QPR against Coventry last Saturday on the 15th of April, and we lost that one 3-0. So that's 1 point out of a possible 12. Our league position is now 20th on 43 points, and we're sitting alongside Cardiff. For the fans who made the great effort to travel and to do the walk along the Wigan Pier, it must have been a long and unhappy one. Courtesy of an early foul by a desperate Balogun and subsequently a converted penalty, Wigan were able to defend and protect the slenderest of leads. They were helped by the R's attack being unable to make little headway. Then on Good Friday, we had Preston North End show that you really can get away with fouling players and time wasting whenever you have a poor referee. The constant shirt pulling on our strikers and their falling over in tackles may explain why the attackers were so poor. But after going behind to a good move, the defence gifted a second and decisive goal. And that seems to be the story all the way through the latter part of the season, to be honest. Anyway, that made the West Brom match on Easter Monday ever more of a dread. And courtesy of two mistakes in dead ball situations, we were down 2-0 within 13 minutes. To end up drawing 2-2 away at the Hawthorns says a lot about the team's ability to recover. Finally, therefore, we thought Coventry, this has got to be the one, surely. This is the one that's going to build on the back of West Bromwich Albion. We needed to start well, but after only 9 minutes, we were a goal down. So as we pushed forward, seeking some sort of equaliser, in doing so, we left ourselves exposed, losing 3-0 at the end. So let's quickly and probably painfully review those championship games. Matthew, losing away to Preston was not unexpected, really, but to recover against the Baggies and draw and then lose against Wigan does seem to typify our season, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Wigan one was a really, really poor one, to be fair. We had to win that one to give us a bit of a gap for a few weeks, for the relegation zone. And it was such a QPR result. Wigan, the players weren't being paid. They were basically accepting relegation.
Yeah.
And often we're a charity team that gives teams 3 points who need it most. And we virtually delivered. A shocking start with Balogun, who just came back from injury. Didn't have to dive in there. Seemed quite desperate, to be honest. That tackle, and yeah, already on the back foot. And Wigan just sat back, and we couldn't break him down. And it's always a struggle to break him down, but against the worst defense in the league, we should have done a lot more. We were quite static in our movement. It just didn't look like we were scoring in that game, and yeah, really, really disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to go into the overall issues later on amongst the topics, but can you identify any concerns that you had in those last four games that you saw?
Defensively is a massive issue. We just look so easy to score against, whether it's a set piece, whether it's a little bit of movement in behind. We just, Dickey and Dunn are not the fastest centre backs, and Leon Balogun's quite senior as a defender, so he's not particularly quick either. So Whenever there's a chance in behind, we just can't give back, and especially with the Preston game, the second goal especially was really really poor. Just a mix up between the two centre backs, and they scored from there. Um, and most of the games in these last three games have been from set pieces.
Yeah.
The West Brom game was a complete shocker. Um, two set pieces, and we just seemed to go behind in the first 15 minutes, you know, which is the opposite of what we should do as a relegation candidate. And yeah, just shocking all round, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've highlighted the defence, and I equally could say the same about the attack. I mean, losing at Wigan was extremely frustrating because we conceded, as you said, yet another early goal, and then we're playing catch up all the time. And we compounded that frustration and desperation, as you sort of pointed out, in failing to finish off chances. You know, it was good to see the so-called cavalry of Parle, Willock, and Balogun coming back. However, it was not so good to see all the small groups of fans aggressively shouting and gesticulating at Balogun afterwards when he went over to them. He made a stupid mistake. Everybody on that team so far has made a stupid mistake, at least one in the season. I think trying to berate Balogun for his stupidity in that one area, it's not going to improve his confidence, and it certainly isn't going to improve that of the team. I would have thought. There we go. Preston North End. I suppose we should go over that. It was equally frustrating for me for the same reasons you're saying: defensive mistakes. I actually don't think that we should have allowed Preston to win. What was really struggling there was the ability to score. We had Chair back and we
Yeah,
had Willock up front with Dykes, and still we couldn't score. Um,
yeah, that
so
was the first half. Was sorry, just the first half. I'll just say, a big point in the match was Chair missing that one on
yeah,
one.
yes,
If we
yeah,
score that, then that gets the team's confidence is really low at the moment, and that would have got the team up, especially the crowd would
yes,
have got up as well.
yeah. I
I think that
agree.
would have changed the game,
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
opinion.
and they were there to be taken, I thought, but not after that. No.
Oh, I agree.
Um, and that brings us on to the baggies, I suppose, on Bank Holiday Monday. And this featured Dunn at right back and Adoma at right wing back. So all a bit unusual. Despite the early defensive mistakes costing us two goals, the team fought hard. I mean, it really was a team effort. That fighting spirit resulted in goals courtesy of Dykes' superb diving header, and in some rare luck for the R's, Chris Martin's deflected block on the goalie's clearance going into the net. So that 2-2 draw was the least we deserved. But the thing I would like to highlight, funny enough, is not on the pitch. Even though the effort was there, I'd like to recognise the 1,231 QPR fans who made that journey. Well done to them. Superb. So
Yeah,
anyway, let's
absolutely.
move on. Painful as this is, apart from Dazelle replacing Amos, it was perhaps no real surprise that Ainsworth kept the same starting 11 that he used against West Brom when he went on to the Coventry match. Having Jimmy Dunn at right back in preference to Laird, and Adoma instead of perhaps Drew or somebody else who's perhaps a bit faster at right wing back. Um, it was a bit of a gamble. Coventry pressed and were delighted we settled for long balls, and they frequently won those first or second contacts. Our attack had a few near misses, but they never did really enough to worry Coventry and prevent them from breaking out to score. Too many teams now, it seems to me, have worked out how slow we are, as you say, in defence, and how we're unable to score freely up front. They almost don't need to mark some of our people. So okay, let's draw a line under those four matches. Probably best to, so that people don't. Now we've brought it up again. This is the last time we're going to mention those, probably. Let's move
Absolutely.
on to predictions for the next four games. And these are the last four games of the season.
Yeah.
So QPR against Norwich on Wednesday, coming up this Wednesday. Norwich are our opponents, an ex-PL side. They sit 10th in the league, so a similar position to Coventry, but with a mixed bag of recent results. So, Matthew, what do you reckon? Win, draw, or loss?
I've gone for a draw.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I think there's got to be some sort of response from the Coventry game. It's it's a weird one because I see the team are trying hard, but it's just lacking in quality. And I was hearing Ainsworth after the game, and he says that the team worked hard. I want the lads to give everything on the pitch, but at the end of the day, it comes down to quality, and we've got to be delivering that right now. Okay, we showed a bit of that against West Brom, but in the last four games, it's getting quite desperate now, and the fans are sort of getting desperate. It's been quite toxic. Last couple of home games, I think this is our joint worst home record. We've got to be getting a point here and there now and then. So I've gone for a draw just so for the fact that we can try and make a point maybe, or sit back a bit more, try and catch them on the counter. You never know, but
yeah.
a draw I think is a must.
I've gone for a draw as well. My reason for saying this is that we seem to play better against ball playing sides, like the Baggies and Norwich, dare I say. As long as we can contain their fast breaking forwards, we stand a chance. Um, I can't see this one being a goalless draw, but just pray that we can suddenly come up good, all cylinders firing. Okay, Burnley against QPR on the following Saturday. Um, okay, Burnley are going to get promoted. We all know that. That's a given. So, will they be relaxed enough to not care about this fixture? I doubt it. They will want to get promoted automatically and finish with over 100 points. And who would blame them for that? So, win, draw, or loss, Matthew?
I think predictably I've gone for a loss.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I
Yeah.
just think at the end of the day they just have too much quality. Uh, there's just some of the attacking play they have. It's scary at times. Um, they're like the Man City of the Championship, the way Vincent Company has transformed them. Really, they're a completely different side to where they were under Sean Dyche. And yeah, I just think they have too much quality, too much pace to deal with them. And yeah, they'll be going for 100 points. They'll be going to, well, I think they're champions elect now, right now. So, if they're not champions by midweek, they'll obviously want to do it at home with their fans, and they'll be certainly up for it. And it'll be a real struggle for us for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel that this is more than a bridge too far. So I've gone for a loss as well. Uh, so happy reading for everyone or listening. Um, Stoke versus QPR on Saturday, the 29th of April. Stoke are sitting safely above us, but they've really got nothing to play for. But that doesn't mean that they won't be trying. So win, draw, or loss, Matthew?
I've gone for a draw again.
Ah,
Uh, like I said, like I said previously, I think we should got to keep getting a point here and there. Um, I'm well aware that Cardiff and are playing teams around us in its couple of games, so they could play each other, and then they could drop a few points. I think if we can get a point here, then I think that would be very handy. I think that that could get us above the relegation zone still. Um, it's a good point you make there with Stoke nothing to play for. You know, to get a win will be ideal. They'll have nothing to play for. Some players could be on the beach, as they say. So, we could deliver in that circumstance, but I think a draw just because of the amount of goals we've been scoring recently and just a lack of quality. But yeah, I've gone for a draw.
okay. On paper, you've got 20th at away to 16th in terms of league positions. Um, I've gone with my heart on this one, and I've said a win. And I've got no reason really for saying that other than my heart. Um,
No, no, I don't blame you at all.
okay, and the last one we were going to mention is Bristol City. Um, any thoughts on this one?
Uh, I think I've gone with you in terms of the fact that I've gone with heart over head. It's the last home game of the season, and this could be, I see it as going to the last day anyway, in terms of this relegation battle.
Oh
Um,
gosh,
so I think a win, yeah, I see it that way just in terms of our current form and just how many games left, there's only 4 games left. So I see it going to the last day, but we need that win on the last day just to make sure that, we'll stay in this league. But it's got to be a win at any circumstance, in my opinion.
yeah. Ainsworth said that he's quoted as saying we need a couple of draws and a win, or 2 wins. Um, it's asking a lot, but it's
Yeah,
possible. Everything in this championship, we have to say, up until we've nosedived like we have, is possible. Um,
no, of course.
so, yeah, I must admit, I'll go for a draw on that one. Uh, right. So let's go on to the topics. We've got a bit of time left, so we've got 2 meaty topics here to go through.
Yeah.
Um, First one: How did we manage to sink from being top in October to relegation contenders in April? It's a real meaty one for you, Matthew, to start off with.
I think it's a number of things, really. I think, we've had 3 managers now, this season. Uh, there's been key players in and out the team. There's been no sort of rhythm in the whole season, really. I guess you can separate August till October when we had that good start to the season where there was no disruption. It was all positive. But ever since, Wolves were interested in Michael Beale and then suddenly he left to Rangers, and ever since that happened, it's just been non-stop, really. Just no rhythm at all. Ainsworth has been on about the cavalry coming back. I think he just hasn't realised that the cavalry that have come back have had injuries now and then during the season, and they've had no rhythm at all. So, it was always hard to expect these sort of players to, get going and be the players they once were at the start of the season. It was always going to be difficult. So, um, yeah, I think it's those two main things for me, really. Just players adapting to the each manager's style of play and getting up to speed. It's just been really difficult.
That's very interesting that you say that, because I've said that it's no coincidence that our problem started with Beale's high-speed escape up the A1, but injuries to key players at the same time is also a major factor. And then when you take into account the fact that Neil Critchley came in with all the best of intentions, and Gareth Ainsworth, but neither of them was able to endorse Beale's style of play or install a viable alternative. So we didn't even gain the fillip of having a different manager. That didn't make any difference whatsoever. Normally a side will get a couple of extra points because of this when they get a new manager. Not us. Um,
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
this was in part, I think, probably because we lost centre backs, Jake Clark-Salter and Balogun. The backs, Laird and Parle, and the attackers, Willock and Dykes, all at the same time, effectively. At that
Yeah,
crucial time, we had so few alternatives, and none of them were of the same quality. Hence the reason why we're still seeing players like Dunn playing out of position and Adoma covering right wing back. Um, but then once you got to that terrible situation, I think you've got the question of player confidence and player determination to overcome their setbacks. Confidence allows you the ability to use skills and take chances, whilst low confidence breeds a culture of not taking risks and not expecting to win, those balls. Here in particular, we've found that the lone players, I feel anyway, were not so worried or keen to assist. No real surprises really about that, as this is not their parent club. However, try telling that to Albert Adoma. He's got absolutely no legs left, but the guy loves the club and he virtually kills himself on the pitch trying to keep going. Full credit to him. Now that most of the key players have returned from injury, which is what you were saying, I'm concerned that really it's too late in the season to get them match sharp. It's one thing to bring
Yeah,
Balogun back and shove him straight in there. It's yet another thing to have him where he's match sharp and he doesn't make mistakes quite so easily anyway. Um, and really having the match sharp will make the massive difference required. I just worry that it's so late in the game now. We've got what 4 games left now. It's asking a lot.
yeah,
Anyway, we may just suddenly turn up, on Wednesday, and bam, 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 everything connects up. Get a couple of goals at the beginning, confidence shoots up, and we start playing football. It would be nice to think so. But
no, of course.
our problems lie both up front and at the back. You're quite right to point out the dead ball situations. When it comes to that, we're terrible. We just can't cope with the fast
We are.
breaking ball players, either. So we've got to score goals to compensate for this, and we're not. Okay,
No, we're not.
on to topic number 2. It's been a horrible season, no getting away from it, with low lights, including Beale running away, major injuries, as we said, to key players, changing the managers without any tangible improvement. However, do you think that the problems we have encountered here are just that, as I've said, or the causes run deeper, Matthew?
Uh, Recently has been quite toxic within the fan base. There's been um chance of sacking the board, um, especially to Les Ferdinand. I do see it to some extent why the fans are complaining. I think, if you look at Les Ferdinand's tenure, one manager you would say that's been good has been Mark Warburton. He kept us stable for a good 3 to 4 years. But
I
if
was
you
going to
look at the
mention
other
him.
managers, yeah, if you look at the other managers, it didn't really last that long. And I think Mark Warburton, in my opinion, was harshly sacked. And yeah, that's my opinion. But I just think lack of recruitment in terms of players. You know, I think we were saying earlier on in the season that we needed cover for certain positions. We just didn't do that. And then we ended up getting both fullbacks injured, and then we had to play youngsters like Aaron Drew and Nico Hammerline at times. And for me, they're not good enough at this level yet. And it doesn't help the club loaning them to clubs that are nowhere near football league level. And it's harsh for them to come straight in. I think they can come in for the one game or so, but to come in for 4 or 5 games, it's
Yeah,
to be hard to face
asking a
against
lot.
opposition that are it is asking a lot, especially in a short space of time. So I just think the lack of recruitment has let us down in recent years, and yeah, um, it can run deeper. Uh, but at the same time, you got to look at the squad, and it's got to be bigger at times, especially with the amount of games in the championship midweek, about 10 times in a season. So I just think the squad's got to be bigger, and yeah, recruitment's got to be a little bit better.
You're coming at it from virtually the same way as me because I've said that the club's progress has been discussed in various threads on the Hoops and Dreams forum, over the last 2 years. Um, and my take really is that successive managers have had to rely heavily upon key players in key positions being fit and available. When they're unavailable, those slots are being filled by players, as you say, who can barely cope with championship football or can't cope at all. Um,
Yeah,
Meanwhile, we have a glut of midfielders, and some players in other positions are being offered extended contracts when they should have been released. For me, this sounds like a recipe for disaster, and I feel that the player selection and retention process at the club is seriously wrong. Now, we've had 4 managers. You're quite right to highlight Mark Warburton. That's the fourth one during this time, and one continuity thing there is Les Ferdinand. I still don't really understand how the player selection is done in terms of how much involvement the manager has, but I am seriously concerned, I
I
must
agree.
admit, at the way it's going. I really am. Um,
Yeah, just to comment on that, I would
no,
just like
please
to,
do, please do.
you know, no, I would like to just, I hope someone just finds out, try to compare, who was the idea to buy these players from Les Ferdinand, and who was the idea to buy players from all the managers that have been in this tenure. I'm sure there's been many players that have been down to this Ferdinand. Like you got to think of the Tottenham youngsters we've had in the past, and I think back to last season where we got Jeff Hendrick, and that was a signing that we didn't need. I felt that the club just wanted to do a deal on transfer deadline day and just think, okay, let's have him in the team. But that disrupted the
True.
whole rhythm in the team, and that ruined basically our playoff chase.
Yeah, yeah. You raise a very good point there. And in fact, if we look at the loan players, God, I've got to stretch my.
Too
I think
many.
probably Hugo's probably been the last success one that I can think of. Really, Hugo's been fantastic. He really has for what he did. He put the goals away. That's what you wanted him for. Now you
I
look at
did like,
go on.
sorry, I did like Naki Wells. Naki
Sorry,
Wells when he
yeah,
had the two
yeah,
loan spells with us.
yeah. Good
Yeah, I
point.
thought
Okay,
we had the opportunity to get him for I think a few million, but then we used that money up in other signings, and that's what I was really disappointed about. I think Naki Wells would have been a great signing for us. We possibly could have gotten playoffs in that season when we had Eze and Eze Samuel. With
it would have
Wells
been good.
being signed permanently, I think it would have been ideal, but we just didn't have enough funds.
Yeah, if you look at, I mean, in desperation, they hunted around when Dykes was injured, and they ended up with Chris Martin. Um,
Yeah,
I almost, honestly, I almost feel that we've been better off not wasting the money. His contribution, I watched him against Coventry, and I was in despair. He just walks around up there and he blusters and whatever, but he's not got the legs. We're sort of talking about an Albert Adoma type thing. But Albert Adoma actually cares. He almost kills himself trying to run down the wing. I don't see Chris Martin doing
yeah,
that very much, sadly, because he had the talent, but I think it's gone. And I have to look at the selection process of why he's here. What did they think they were going to get?
yeah. I just didn't because I remember looking on social media after and when we released Charlie Austin, and everyone's like, "Why did we release Charlie Austin for Chris Martin?"
It's a good
What
point.
was the purpose of that? What's the difference in that really? Because you're saying that Austin's career was slowly declining, but he would score more goals than Chris Martin in the season. And even though Swindon is like League One, League Two level, he's still bagging goals. I think he's a great striker in the box, and he's still good in the air. So I just think the board was so quick to get rid of him that instantly. And for Chris Martin, I think they thought it was going to be a quick fix, but they didn't see the whole situation we was in.
No, I agree with you. And you mentioned about jumping for balls. It's a very good point because I watched Chris Martin against Coventry, and time and again, the guys were just getting up above him. There was no trouble at all for them. And
Yeah,
if he's not there for heading, he's certainly not there for tackling or for dribbling around people. That's just not his style. That's not what he's the
no,
big
it's not.
old-fashioned centre forward. And I agree with
Yeah,
you. I think Charlie Austin's a better version. Hey ho,
yeah,
it's the way it is. It's the way it is. Anyway,
it
uh,
is.
I don't know if you've got any other thoughts on this. I'm sort of full of despair at the moment, but praying that League One is not beckoning.
Yeah, I think overall, I just feel, I feel sorry for Ainsworth, first of all. I think I tweeted it out when he first got appointed. I knew it was going to be a risk. I sort of felt, just another point on the board, I sort of felt they did the appointment just to get the fans back on side because I think now this season is starting to show their failures for sure, and the fans are starting to see that. But bringing in Ainsworth in such a situation where he has to get wins straight away in such a short space of time with a group with such low confidence, it was always going to be difficult. And his style of play, my fear was his style of play not suiting to our current team. And you can see that it's not. He's tried a few things. The Coventry loss, I didn't mind Jimmy done it right back against West Brom as a one-time thing, but trying it again, you could see we was so open at the back. He's not
Yeah,
a right back that goes up and down. We just needed to stay solid, sit back if we have to, and then
Yeah.
try and get up the pitch with the lights of chair. So yeah, I just feel sorry for Ainsworth, and I just hope we do stay out for his. I wouldn't say his legacy is tarnished because he's been brought in to do the job, but obviously you get some fans that will just get upset to the manager, of course. But it's not Ainsworth's fault. It's just down to the group of players that we know that they're good enough. That's the most frustrating thing because they were top in October. We know that's
Correct.
in them, but they're just not showing that, and that's what's frustrating about it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that's the thing that we all have to bear in mind. This same squad in October was top. May have been only fleetingly,
Yeah,
but they were top. And now, less
they
than
were.
fleetingly, we're bouncing along the bottom with the same people. So you're absolutely right to point that out. Well, I don't think we've got any real quick fixes here. And Ainsworth said he came with eyes wide open. Uh, I'm sure when he said that, he was thinking, well, yeah, we'll turn it around. It will happen, but it hasn't. We've got 4 games in which to make a difference. Let's hope the team gets together and makes a difference. Okay, right. That's it for this episode. Other than for me to offer my sincere thanks to my guest Matthew for joining me, editor Dave as
Thank you.
always, and for you and you all of you out there for watching. Do click on subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube channel, and do add a comment or two below. We'd love to hear from you. I am Brian Fisher, and this was a Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. Come on, you R's.
Come on, yours.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.